Ah, hello. How are you? Day, I don't know what it is in Madrid, but Saturday, also known as maybe Damien Rafa Nadal Day, perhaps
Thiago
after
Monteiro Day.
Thiago Monteiro Day, on Jabeur Day. But yeah, actually, Monteiro is an incredible result, and we will get to that shortly. But we are going to begin with Nerland saying hello. Now, we're going to begin by addressing the Rafa Nadal match, where he won in straight sets over Alex de Minaur. And my first question to you, Damien, is are you surprised?
I mean, marginally, obviously, Alex was a slight favorite there, considering Barcelona. But as I think I said, because I was there for the first hour of the watch along today, and basically I said, well, since the Deminor match in Barcelona, we haven't seen Rafa play even one game of consecutive of like competitive tennis. Because I don't count the match against Darwin Blanche as competitive tennis,
Right.
so we were definitely operating as on like limited info. That limited info was mostly kind of against Rafa, but well, the serving was marginally better, I would say, and he was kind of still starting points from neutral. He had to be okay with that, and he was. And sort of similarly, maybe to Koboli, he was bothering the Minor's backhand, especially with the spin, so much. So yeah, I mean, am I surprised that he won? Not really. I don't think he played anything special. I don't think it's tournament winning level.
No.
But if we're looking sort of ahead into the draw, if you tell me that he's gonna make the quarters, semis now, I also wouldn't really object to that because well, it's all open there. I'm very excited to see how Pedro Cachin takes him on. Like that's just a
Yeah.
match between two players from completely different realities, really. So yeah, it is something exciting for me. It is something fresh, but well, because of how much this draw has opened up for Rafa, we kind of cannot exclude any possibility at the moment.
Yeah, right. Potentially Medvedev or Lehecka. Is that a fourth round potentially for him with Medvedev perhaps in the quarters,
Yeah,
or
it's
various others.
Lehecka Monteiro in the fourth round. So
Lehecka Montero in the fourth round, and yeah, I think Medvedev, Korda, and one or two others are potential quarterfinalists, of which, a fit and firing Rafa, he'd be a heavy favourite against. I'm just looking at the 2022 French Open, actually, and that version of Rafa. There was something about the 2022 French Open today that did go through my mind, because the first set in particular was a real slogfest. I do think that the semi-final he had against Zverev was a higher level, but it was still a slogfest, and it was under the roof as well, and perhaps that ambience created by the rain on the outside and the darkness on the inside for an afternoon match reminded me of that. But also, the tennis at times was sort of cat and mouse, just kind of waiting for the other person to make an error, and Alex de Minaur obliged a lot, let's say.
I mean, Alex wasn't doing that much waiting. I think for the most part he was trying to attack, but you could see how uncomfortable he is. Kind of like maybe finding ways to still make balls of the Rafa's lefty forehand rather than actually, knowing what to do, which obviously isn't like any dig at Alex de Minaur. Like that's just a thing, right? I mean, that's simply something that many players in the past have struggled with. Whoever is going to play Rafa in the near future is also going to struggle with this. Obviously, against Flavio Cobolli, it was even tougher. But yeah, I do think that there was quite a lot of just neutral rally from Rafa and wait for that error, but or his opportunity to strike. But that's not a bad thing at all. The backhand cross court was a very real weapon. Yeah, I mean, all in all, definitely he did what he had to do on the day, basically. And as I said, there's literally like we can't exclude any possibility at the moment regarding the rest of his Madrid performance. Maybe if he had someone like Alcaraz right away in the next round, then sure. I mean, I would maybe think that okay, that's probably like Rafa probably isn't winning that. But given the way it's gonna sort of like pile up on him, I will not be surprised if he loses to Pedro Cachin, and I will not be surprised if he makes the semis even. Yeah.
What about winning the tournament? Can you rule that out, like I have with Daniel Collins?
If we have sort of the seeds holding up and we have Sinner and Alcaraz there, probably.
Yeah. Okay. So this poll, somebody has voted losing to cash in. I have a feeling that might be Nerland. I don't know why. But okay. Well, Rafa Nadal does indeed progress. And as I said earlier on a stream, I do think that whatever happens for Rafa from here on in, whether he pushes himself too much in Madrid and basically realizes that he can't play Rome or maybe even the French Open, but he may not win another match. He might draw Carlos Alcaraz in the first round of the French Open, for example. And the Madrid crowd and the Spanish fans and the Rafa Nadal fans in particular, of whichever nationality, will always have that win today, which has been celebrated. By the way, something that we can celebrate a little bit is, look at this. Ta-da! The big reveal. 8,000 subscribers has been surpassed. Of course, during this stream, people might get so annoyed with us that we might lose 2 subscribers and go have a second chance to celebrate. But it has been a bit like that match today. It has been a bit of a slow slog this last couple of days as we inched towards the 8,000 mark. But now we have met it. We can stop talking about that and maybe start talking about 10,000. But whatever. For those of you just tuning in, do hit the like button, of course, as well as subscribe. And don't forget to hit the notification bell. That is so that way you know when we go live. Okay, shall we move on from Rafa, or have you got anything to say about De Minaur?
Not really. I mean, with Alex, obviously, we were talking about this at the beginning of the clay season that if he has like a very solid campaign, he could definitely like ensure that he's in the conversation for Turin. Don't think he's quite done that yet, but he's also not been horrible. Obviously, this is his first round exit, second round, but first round, and he also drew the clay goat. So, sure.
You don't think he's in the conversation yet for
I mean,
Turin?
we will ensure that he's like properly in it because, well, last year he was also in the conversation for a while, right? I'm just saying, put himself in a great position to make it, put himself in like a real spot where we're thinking, okay, yeah, this is very, very doable.
Yeah, I think it was a bit of both today. I do think Nadal's level was a little bit higher than perhaps it was in Barcelona, particularly in the second set, I think, really. First set, I think it was quite tentative. Oh, there was that. By the way, I do want to just have one more thing on this, actually. The umpire debate in the first set, from what I understand, I didn't hear your words as you uttered them, but I believe you thought that the umpire was in the wrong.
I was basically saying that I don't know what the exact rules are, but to me, stopping play and circling the mark is literally saying challenge. You're not chasing after the next shot. You're not hoping that the other guy will miss, and then the point is yours anyway. Someone on Twitter was saying that you can't challenge after the opponent hit a winner 2 shots later, but to me that's not what happened. I mean, to me, basically, Rafa stopped, circled the mark, and that's literally the same as saying challenge to me. And also the arguments that he is a seasoned pro, he's played so many matches, he should know, is also technically untrue to me because, well, the rules change every year with this. As up until 2 years ago, we didn't have Hawkeye anywhere on clay. So it's not like he's actually played many matches with this system. To me, that is the equivalent of saying challenge, stopping play, circling the mark. That's practically as if you said out or challenge. But again, I don't know what the exact rules are, so I can only sort of tell you what common sense would suggest to me.
Nadal was pretty upset at the time, which showed to me at least that he thought this was going to be a very tight affair, that, it might just be 1 point here, 1 point there, a break of serve here. And of course, that first set did end up being very much that way. And unfortunately for him, he lost the advantage that he had later on in the set because he was broken back. Got to the tiebreak. The tiebreak, he takes a 6-2 lead, but I didn't think that the level was great from either player for those 8 points. And then Nadal decides to go big on his second serve, which also showed to me that,
Did
he's
he
just,
decide to go big? Did he decide to
I
go
think so,
big?
yeah.
Really? I mean, the
I
way I
think so.
remember that second serve, it wasn't that
It was
huge.
into the net.
Yeah, it actually seemed pretty tame to me, but
Well,
okay.
doesn't his first serve seem pretty tame to you as well at the moment?
Oh yeah, sure. I just didn't think he was going huge there. Really, I
I
thought it
thought
was a
I had a feeling that
pretty
it was
random
not.
second serve.
I'm not saying that he wasn't anxious, but I think he was going for a bit more on that second serve. I'd have to find out, of course, the speeds. But to me, that's how it seemed, albeit it didn't matter in the end because he got over the line in the first set and he more than got over the line in the second set. And I think a lot of people will be looking at that second set and the level and some of the outrageous winners that he did produce and clinging to that as they hope that he does end up going not just deep, but even super deep. Super deep meaning semi-final or beyond in Madrid. But that is for another day. He'll play Pedro Cashin on Monday. So the last dance, as I suggested in the headline, continues. A dance of a different sign, perhaps a type, maybe even a flamenco type. What is it they dance in the no, samba. Samba.
Samba.
Yeah, would
But
be
flamenco as well, right? I mean,
flamenco is southern Spain. I should know this.
It's Spanish, but like they probably do it too.
Anyway, the point is this. Monteiro is through to the next round, having dispensed with Stefanos Tsitsipas. Do we put the narrative on Monteiro? I guess we have to some extent, at least, in that I think he did produce a very high level, one that you believe he's kind of always capable of producing from time to time.
Oh, of course. I mean, yeah, he just kind of never really believes in himself, you know. And today he comes out, there's all these like reactions to his box and stuff. I mean, he's just crushing every ball. He's got basically all the self belief in the world suddenly. Indoor probably helps him too. He's serving at a ridiculous level. I mean, obviously, to put in like what 90% first serves while not taking much at least off, if anything, is pretty insane. I mean, that's something that you're not going to repeat ever probably. And yeah, to me, that's the most impressive win that he's had in his career. The one there where he was like really there with the level and it kind of didn't matter what the opponent did at all. When he beat Tsonga in 2016, obviously at the time it was massive. It was an announcement win. It was one where everyone was like, okay, yeah, this guy is probably winning one of these Golden Swing events at some point. When he beats Rune in Davis Cup last year, there's a huge asterisk with Holger's form and the way he played. Obviously, I'm not even going to mention the Alcaraz one in Rio because, well, that wasn't a match. That match ended before it even started. So yeah, it's like kind of by far the best win, the best performance of his career. And you probably never really looked at it beforehand because, well, this year has been pretty awful other than the Rio quarterfinals for Monteiro, which, as we know, the Rio quarterfinals he did make because of that retirement from Carlos. Then he plays Marigeni Alves in the second round. So again, like there was really nothing to suggest this. He recently lost to Orlando Luz back-to-back in a couple of challengers. And yeah, somehow he comes out, does this, and literally plays the perfect match.
Indeed. Yeah, maybe Tsitsipas will be a little bit disappointed with his level. Perhaps still there's some elements of fatigue. I know that was certainly an issue for him, or at least he highlighted it when he played Casper in the final in Barcelona. That was obviously back-to-back finals for both of them. So he wasn't complaining in that obviously neither had an advantage in terms of that fatigue level. But maybe the next sort of having a week or two off will do him some good so he can recharge those batteries ahead of Rome, where, of course, he has made the semi-finals, I think, in 2021 and the final, I think, in 2022, albeit I think he was fairly soundly beaten in that final by Djokovic. And, of course, then, the French Open, where he'll be hoping to go very deep. And you were saying that you still put Tsitsipas at or somewhere near the top of that sort of tier 2 group that we've mentioned before.
I don't think his performances in Madrid or Rome matter at this stage. When he gets that time to prepare, when he gets the best of 5 format, which obviously suits the better players, when he has more time to respond to someone throwing a performance like this at him. Like, let's imagine Thiago Monteiro is trying to do the same to him at Roland Garros. He probably doesn't win the match. It's different conditions. It's 3 sets that you need to win. And given that, I just believe that basically, it doesn't really matter to me what he does in Madrid and Rome.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, also in this little mini section, we've had wins for Lahetska and Kashin. Lahetska, of course, you were pretty focused on this morning. There was a rain delay to that match initially, so it was a bit late getting underway. But in the end, that all sort of stemmed around the sort of set points moment, probably at the end of the first set that Medjedovic had.
Yeah, just two set points early on. After I think, well, early on at 4-5, obviously. Can't remember now what exactly happened in the first. I think it was a return that Hamad missed, but the second one, Lehechka like really went after his second serve, not like Rafa at 6-2. And basically, he just set himself up for an easy +1 winner, which didn't have to be easy the way he hit it. And it was like 200 an hour and on the line. But it seemed like after that, it was just simply Medjedovic suddenly all that fatigue that he probably was feeling, even it's his first fit event of the year, suddenly kicking in. And I can't really agree with some comments on Twitter. Like some of my comments, for example, said that basically that like he needs to work on his mentality, that he got so frustrated and stuff, but he was fighting for it in the second set. I think
Yeah.
that obviously, yeah, it was just not good enough really. You could see it right after that break for Lehechka. Then the second set also starts with the break that him pulling off the comeback is kind of impossible at that stage. But well, of course, this is still a pretty nice restart to Medjedovic's season, given that he almost had like 4 months out, basically.
Okay. What about Cashin's win over Tiafo? Does that kind of confirm where we're at with Tiafo at the moment, and a new streak of a different kind for Cashin that he'll be much happier with, a 2-match winning streak he's now on, of course, after a 15-match losing streak. But I mean, I didn't see a ball from this match, but I don't know. Tiafo seems to be in a pretty rough place right now in terms of his form.
Kachin beat Tiafoe here last year as well. He
Okay.
won Gstaad, obviously, in 2023. He made the finals at the Madrid Challenger. I mean, anytime he's doing well now, it's altitude. And for that reason, I don't think it's really that big a deal. Although, obviously, for him personally, being on a 15-match losing streak going into this event, 0-11 for the year, it is absolutely massive. You can see it with his, by his reactions as well. And yeah, I mean, I'm very excited to see how he takes on Nadal. I think that I'm kind of feeling a very close match there, like just based on the conditions. But then again, Pedro Cachin, you never know how he's going to perform playing someone like Nadal. They've never played before. I don't think Cachin has ever really had a shot at playing someone like this, Roger, Rafa, Novak. So there is a bit of uncertainty. But yeah, I mean, the altitude really suits him. He's basically all about these quick rallies on serve, not like a typical clay courter. And yeah, he was in real trouble, of course, given he was 0-11. But if we remember last year, he also started the year like 0-6 or something like that. And it seemed like, okay, so Kachin definitely after 2022, he's going downhill. Because like you got to understand, until 2022, his career high was like 250 or something like that. And then
Mm-hmm.
he beats Dominic Thiem in Marbella when Thiem was coming back and just has a ridiculous half a year. And 2023 he loses a few matches early and everyone thinks, okay, so this is done, like Kachin is okay, Kachin is done as a top player, sure. And then suddenly everything changes, and Madrid was of course a big part of that, the fourth round run. Maybe this is another moment when like Kachin actually says, no, I actually have quality, I'm gonna stay. Who knows? And I am very excited for that Kachin Nadal match.
Cool. That's on Monday. I'm pretty sure we'll have a live commentary for that one too. I reckon it'll be Monday evening, maybe even one of the night matches, just so that way people can attend from work and obviously watch on TV as well. Okay, I think we've done that little section of the draw with Nadal playing Cashin and Lehecka playing Monteiro on Monday. Also playing on Monday will be Daniel Medvedev against Sebi Korda and Bublik against Ben Shelton. Ben Shelton, that result against Mahach, doesn't that stand out a bit to you?
Yeah, it does. From the little I've seen of that match, the stats Seems like Mahac was quite, well, I mean, erratic to a very large extent, but well, we'll see what Ben can do with it later. I obviously, as I said many times on the channel, I don't think he's a horrible clay player at all. He's gonna face Bublik now, which is, well, kind of like the least clay oriented match in this very event.
I thought you were going to say in the history of tennis.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, Bublik is a former quarterfinalist of this event, so obviously, if there's any event on the tour on clay where he can do well, it's Madrid. But to me, I do think that Bublik Shelton is still a matchup that Ben should be feeling, better and pretty comfortable in compared to Bublik at least. And if he gets through that, then we can start talking about like a real, just a good run for him. And from that point onwards, everything else will be a bonus, I suppose. Medvedev Korda, like that's not unbeatable at all.
Right, we've not had a Ben Shelton, Rafa Nadal match yet. The two sort of lefties of two very different generations. I think we were close to it, or at least it was a possibility in Brisbane this year. I don't know if we were close to it exactly because obviously Rafa lost in the quarters, and I think Ben lost at a similar stage as well.
Ben Safiullin in the first round.
Oh, was it first round even? Yeah. I mean, I was just looking at those two thinking, that could be a final of massive interest, but neither got that close. In fact, Rafa got closer than Ben did, which is probably a surprise, bearing in mind Ben's form on a hard court. But anyway, the prediction I made a year ago regarding Ben and winning more matches and having a positive win-loss record, I wish I'd made that prediction for this year rather than last. But never mind. More importantly for him and the present, he is in a pretty good position right now. But yeah, Medvedev and Korda. Korda, I remember you saying that basically if he can't beat Max Purcell on clay, he should probably retire. Well, fortunately for the American, he's not going to be forced into that position because he did win in straight sets. Medvedev Arnaldi, I know this was a match that happened at the same time as the Rafa match, and you were pretty keen to watch this. I'm assuming that once you got the chance, you did then switch over to it. Tell us about the match, if you can, and also maybe Medvedev's chances against Korda.
Yeah, I did. I rewatched the first set and I quickly and I watched the rest of it. Honestly, kind of more or less of this, more of what we've been experiencing with Arnaldi the last couple of months. Like he's clearly ready for like a big breakthrough statement, whatever. But yeah, he still struggles to like balance his game. I mean, he's kind of trying to play with like a Federer / Del Potro / whoever aggression. Just Fonseca like aggression, trying to hit winners at wheel. And he's a great post striker, but I think that kind of takes away from a lot of his natural strengths as well, with the court coverage, the defensive qualities that he has. And it's like kind of the same of that mess, Medvedev kind of starts being a little maybe like ups the aggression, steps into the court on return a little bit more. But Arnaldi just kind of loses it from there. And yeah, he's just trying to end every point as early as possible. And that really kind of doesn't fit with sort of the sort of tennis that he was playing coming up, and with a lot of his natural the traits that he possesses that are unique to other players. I mean, he can't really just skip on them, I think. And it's still the same as 3 or 4 months ago, which I guess is a little frustrating if you think about it. But eventually Medvedev gets through, and he's going to play Korda, which has been obviously a very interesting matchup over the years.
Oh, yeah, right. I think they played each other in Indian Wells recently as well.
Yes.
Medvedev winning that one. But I think it was was it go to a third set? It's a lot of
It was 3 sets. It's currently 2-2 between them.
Okay. And who's the favorite for that one? Or is it really too close to call?
Odds-wise, it's going to be Medvedev. Personally, I don't know. I actually haven't checked the odds, but I would assume that Medvedev has a reasonable lead in the odds. I mean, if Korda was in any decent shape, right? If Korda was showing us anything the last few months, I would be saying it's very close to a 50-50. But because of how he's been playing, I'm inclined to agree that he's, let's say a favorite that's like apparent, and like you can actually point to him as the favorite. But yeah, it's never really obvious between these two. Sebi seems to have a very good game to like actually start attacking and pressuring Daniil and use all these angles to lure him into the court a little bit more, mess with the positioning. Yeah, it's probably one of the most uncomfortable opponents that Daniil has on the tour, even if at this point in time he might not be at the peak of his powers.
Okay, looking at this little section as well, it's obviously all matches that happened in the I think top half of the draw, right? We're talking about here with the bottom half tomorrow. So there's one of these four results. Actually, it might surprise you. The one that stands out most to me is because I think you might well look at Mensik against Dimitrov as a standout result. But that Felix result, 6-love, 6-4. Are we getting back on a Felix train or...
No, he played Manarino. Do you know what Manarino's win rate is on clay on the main tour? Like 20% or something like that?
I was going to say 30 or 40, but okay.
No, it's definitely much less. I think overall, like including ITFs and challengers, it's like 45, and straight up main tour is like 21, 22. I mean,
well, now comes the test then against Mensik, right?
Well, now comes the match where he's not the favorite. I don't think he is, Felix. Whereas against Manarino, he was like a... Yeah, Manarino was like a match for Corda against Purcell. Like, that's kind of the way, you can go there. Like, if you lose to Manarino and Clay and you're Felix and you're trying to get back to top 10, top 15-ish level, yeah, that would be a brutal, brutal loss. Mensik, I mean, as I said, I think yesterday, there's no player on the planet right now against whom I would be willing to write off Jakub Mensik. And so I'm
Mensik against Sinner on a hard court?
I'm not going to say it's impossible. That's the sort of talent we're talking about. I mean, I'm definitely not going to say it's impossible.
Okay. Anyway, Felix lies in wait for him because he knocked out Dimitrov today, right? And
why is this like a funeral photo?
I don't know. It's not my choice. It's from the Blackspin Global Twitter page.
I actually had a dream, by the way, a tennis dream today. I don't know if I should say which player, but you were there too. We were at 250. It was in Japan for whatever reason.
Okay.
And this one player came through, had to play two matches on the same day in the quarterfinals first. And then we were waiting for his semi. And suddenly the paramedics go into the press office and they gave us a death certificate so that we can take photos. And that was the death certificate of that player. And basically it turned out that he... No. That player, I don't know if I should say who it was, but that player died between the quarters and the semis. That he had to play on that day. And
I mean, I was concerned that it was going to be a death certificate for me, which, to be honest with you, in Estoril on the Sunday, when you probably wasn't far off after we had Tequila Saturday. Tequila Saturday certainly impacted the Sunday. But anyway, there we go. But that's a different thing. But anyway, so Felix lies in wait for... Felix will play Jakub Mensik, and the reason that will be happening is because Jakub Mensik ended a run for Dimitrov this year, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Dimitrov was like some ridiculous stats. In the past 52 weeks, he's only lost one opening round. That was to Zverev. So, when you play Zverev in the opening round, obviously that's justified. And he was losing to Zverev left and right that part of the season last year. Earlier than that, even it lasted longer because in Indian Wells he lost to Kubler, but it was via retirement. So that actually lasted like about 60 weeks more, even if you want to count like only opening matches. Yeah, here I also said about the fact that he was winning 2 at least every single time he played this year. So some ridiculous stats for sure. But I mean, if there's someone that I'm like really not willing to write off against anyone and give them a chance of ending these streaks, it's Mensik. And I think we did see a match between like two very evenly matched players tonight. What made the difference is very hard to say. Like, to me, even that 6-2 set, it wasn't that lopsided. Dimitrov just made some unfortunate errors in the most key moments, but all in all, it was just another I guess one of these where Mensik shows a lot of versatility especially in terms of how he covers the court for his physical stature. And also, the weaponry being just very hard to neutralize on a court like this, in conditions like this. You don't really see Dimitrov like just running around and slicing the ball back to him as he can do sometimes to like weather the storm on other surfaces, because, well, he's just not going to control it like that.
Cam Norrie beating João Fonseca 6-1, 6-4. I watched most of this match. It was a pretty short affair. My two thoughts were, in the first set, João Fonseca was playing like a child. And then I remembered, well, he kind of is a child. And then the second set, I felt that he found his range. I think I tweeted those exact words. But he found them when he was like 5-4 down and Cameron Norrie was serving for the match. But it really felt like I know it's kind of an age-old thing in tennis, but it really did feel like if Fonseca breaks there, he could run away with it. And I also started to think about him in terms of physicality, and this is something that has plagued a lot of people at his age, Djokovic in particular, Holger Rune. I say at his age, actually, probably it still plagued them for another 2 or 3 years beyond the age of 17. But actually, I would have and everyone knows how fit Cam Norrie is, but I would have fancied him in the third set if he'd have won that second set. And
he lost the
some of the
first in 20 minutes, so
yeah, right, yeah,
it's
yeah,
kind of
that
like
helped.
the first never happened. So in terms of physicality, this really wasn't the toughest match on him for
No,
sure.
no. But anyway, I listen. I know it's Cam Norrie beating João Fonseca, and here I am talking about the Brazilian. Well, because Cam Norrie did what Cam Norrie does, and does very effectively, and therefore he's in the next round. But to say it's on someone's racket would be a masterpiece of understatement, because I mean, basically, it was just a case of can Fonseca find his range, as I said before, and he did, but it was just too little, too late, or too much, too late, almost.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Fonseca matches look like this right now. Like, can the raw talent be just more valuable than the complete lack of experience and complete lack of like tactics, match play, awareness, or whatever? So yeah, we're kind of used to that. I mean, this can happen to him obviously against any player at the moment. Like, I think, for example, it's like a favorite. Fonseca is never really reliable anymore, yet. But yeah, today was quite brutal until the last two games. Lots of support in the crowd for the Brazilians all week. Seibovic, Monteiro, Fonseca. Cam was definitely feeling it as well, I think, in the
Yeah,
last two
yeah. I think
games.
that's a really got to take my hat off to Cam for that, actually, because he dealt with that pretty well. Because I mean, it was a football crowd, and they were going nuts for him more than loud. It
Pretty
seemed
well and
bigger
not pretty well, because he was, he had some definite moments of feeling it. The double
maybe, but
faults
he got
and
over the line.
he got over the line, yes.
By the way, this is Alex, who I met and referenced you in Stuttgart. He's just congratulating us on the 8K. I
Thank
sent
you,
you
Alex.
a voice message from him and I think, at one point. Anyway, yeah, so João Fonseca is out. Cam Norrie proceeds, where Cam Norrie will be playing Casper Ruud. I only caught the latter stages of Casper Ruud against Kecmanovic basically once the Fonseca Cam Norrie match was done with. Probably quite a similar affair to their final in Estoril last year, when it was pretty comfortable for Casper then, and it was comfortable for him today. I guess there was a moment of doubt at the beginning of the second set when Kecmanovic broke back, but then Casper Ruud, I think, rolled off 4 games in a row, I think, to basically win the match 6-1 in the second set. So Casper Ruud, his fine 2024 form continues. Top part of the draw here, I did see, it was kind of on my screen, this Sonego Sinner match, but I was kind of glazed over, kind of keeping an eye on other results. I think Zachary was playing at the same time against Sloane Stephens, and it was just that the Sinner Sonego match was really a non-event, other than Sonego being a bit frustrated with himself, but I think he was frustrated because he just didn't know what he could do.
Yeah. First match for Yannick. I mean, he said himself that it's like, indoors, it doesn't really matter for the rest of the event. But again, like, we would expect the same result outdoors too. I do struggle to see how anyone can beat him in the near future in this event. I mean, semis, sure. But for now,
Yeah,
He does
Kotov is
seem to
going to
have
be.
a very nice passage. Kotov, yeah, I mean, from time to time, I guess he has a very good forehand day, but still hasn't beaten a top 20 player. Today, it was a big mess from him. I mean, too much points saved at 3-5 in the third. Probably shouldn't be struggling with Jordan Thompson that much on clay, to be honest with you. So, yeah, I mean, Sinner still looks as strong as he did sort of in our minds before we entered the event.
Kaboli beat Jarry.
Second time this year, right? Australian
Oh,
Open as well.
okay, I'm thinking of Clay though in particular, which is more standout. And I tell you what, this reminds me of, I think it's Jethro. Pretty sure it's Jethro said, like in Jarry, I'm giving you one tennis prediction for 2024, and it's Nicholas Jarry to win Madrid. And I was like, well, yeah, good on Clay, big
You know what the
serve.
problem? You know what the problem is? Like Nicolas Jarry, of course, had a fantastic campaign in 2023, and I think that's kind of where people's opinions differ because you had the group that thought, okay, he's going to be as strong or even stronger for years to come now, and you had the group which I am a part of. And so far,
Okay,
it's not clear which group actually is right. But you also had the other group which kind of just thinks, yeah, so that was probably the best we've seen from we're ever gonna see from Nicolas Jarry. And I'm kind of part of that group. Like I don't think what he did last year is the norm. But yeah, for now, I mean, he's had the Buenos Aires final, he's had the Miami quarters. So like neither group of people is really right for now.
right.
But yeah, Madrid didn't pan out for Jeffro indeed.
I know it was last year, but even that Wimbledon performance against Alcaraz was pretty impressive. I think probably only Djokovic pushed Alcaraz more in that tournament last year. I know Berrettini, I think, took a set off Carlos, but
Someone could argue that Jarry pushed Alcaraz more than Djokovic. I think.
yeah, I mean,
No,
it felt very close. It felt, I think it was four
it
sets,
was.
but it
Oh, it
felt,
was 4 sets, and in the tiebreak, Jarry had like no, Jarry was serving to take it to 5. That's why I said it.
yeah,
I mean, it,
yeah.
it would still be ridiculous to say it given like what happened in the first 2 sets of Alcaraz Djokovic and how easily Carlos could have been 2 sets to of down. But like this was pretty comparable. Like this was easily a 5 set match if Jarry just holds serve. I mean, he was 5-2 or 5-3 in the fourth, and then he lost the next 5 or 4 games.
Okay. I think we're done pretty much with the men's side, unless there's any other stories from the day you'd like to highlight.
I don't think so. This is one section, and what's just below it? Literally,
Uh,
just
so
one below it.
Bautista a good loss to Kachanov. That is a match that we didn't
No,
really
no, but
talk
just
about.
just one below it, really.
I'm just going down now.
Okay, it's this one. Okay, then never mind. Yeah, then we definitely talked about it all.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about the matches tomorrow at the end.
Yeah, yeah.
That'll be the last sort of section. Let's have a look over the WTA from today. I really have. I didn't see a ball, but I think I don't need to say a ball to say I have nothing to say about Iga Swiatek, Sorana Cirstea, 6-1, 6-1. I mean, there's a famous line about the show Seinfeld, which is a show about nothing, and I almost feel as though this round of the event and this match, despite not seeing a single ball, there's just nothing to say.
Yeah, I do agree with that. And sort of the more I think about it, the more I think that over the years, between the two fast clay events on the WTA tour, Świątek's results in Stuttgart and Madrid will probably like kind of, come
Reverse.
together and
Okay.
maybe even reverse. Yes.
I think
Because well, the high bounce here, like I mean, you're gonna see her having these beat downs here, which in Stuttgart wasn't really possible. So maybe the fact that she won Stuttgart twice in a row is going to be like a bit of an exemption. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. Obviously, it also depends on the opposition you face. But Stuttgart is also a 32 player, well, 28 even player draw, and you get only like four opponents, but you get four opponents who are like your top player, top player, top player. Here you basically start from a couple of sometimes at least easier rounds. I don't know. Yeah, for now, definitely a non-story. Sarasori Bestormo forefront. I mean, we've seen that matchup a few times already. It was never tough for Iga, but it's sometimes a good one to just get your game going, get more rhythm because obviously the Spaniard will make you beat her. We've seen her also, like we've seen Iga actually use this matchup as a bit of a preparation for the next ones in Beijing, especially last year. When she starts from it, she goes to the net a lot because, well, you have to finish off points somehow, and she really like, yeah, just finds a golden week there. So um, maybe that's also going to be the case here. Definitely Sorribes Tormo beating Azarenka was a bigger story than Świątek beating Kirstea with the 2 hour 51 minutes straight set win, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yes, sorry, yes, Cerebus Tormo, yeah, exactly. I was just looking for a tweet from Owen actually about Cerebus Tormo from today, which was basically saying that everyone Cerebus Tormo should be a mandatory opponent for everyone on tour so they can see exactly how much adversity they can handle.
It's a beautiful fandom, you know. It's I really appreciate that the fact that Owen likes Sorribes Tormo that much.
Yeah, me
It's
too. And I actually I did enjoy the last game of that match because she hit two winners, and the pace of the two winners was slow. I was going to say subtle. Yeah, I guess that's another word. One of them was a very curvy kind of cross court winner, and I can't remember the other. I think the other one was a drop shot actually, but yeah, she of course beating Azarenka. I mean that match really could have gone either way. You know, the 7-6, 6-3 scoreline, or was it 6-4 scoreline? Does sort of partly tell us the story, but if Azarenka had broken back, yeah, 7-6, 6-3. If Azarenka had broken back when Sorribes Tormo was trying to serve it out, I think it did get to deuce. Then that may well have gone on for another 2 or 3 hours, and maybe even with a different winner. But Sorribes Tormo does progress, much to the delight of her home crowd, where she'll play Iga, and will have a very, very different exam to take in a couple of days from now. Beatrice had Maya beating Emma Navarro, but one player I do want to talk about. I have touched on her before, at least in tweets, but maybe not on the show. Is Maria Sakkari is, for me, playing the best tennis in 3 years. Is the easy sort of tweet to put out there, and I think I did do that a few days ago.
You did,
But
you
now
did.
I'm thinking, I think she's playing better than she's ever played in her life.
I wish I saw anything from the Steven Sakari match because that would have been really helpful. And
I saw a bit, but more important, well, not more importantly, I'm also basing it on her previous round win as well over Donna Vekic. And let me tell you this: I know Vekic, you know, and is probably not super high pedigree on this surface, but Vekic didn't do much wrong. And I watched Vekic, by the way, win her first match against Lauda Siegman. I thought, wow. Again, I felt as though that was pretty high quality encounter. I mean, Siegman was a bit ever strewn as she can be. But Siegman brought her level to the match, if you like, and Vekic brought a level that I didn't necessarily knew that she had. Then in that match with Sakkari, Vekic, I thought, played quite well. But Sakkari was just too good. And I saw Sakkari up close in the Billie Jean King Cup, albeit that she did lose one of her matches against Clara Towson there. But, you know, every time I see Sakkari, I thought that there was a limit to Sakkari, and I thought that that limit was 2021. Well, I'm having to reevaluate a bit. And I think she's playing. I think the reason why I say she's playing better is I think the WTA Tour is stronger now. So she might lose to Iga in 3 sets.
but why is it stronger? Why is it stronger?
Well, because I'm thinking about, let's take the French Open 2021, okay? Think
Yeah,
about that.
no. But tell me one thing. Why is it stronger? Because
Got
of
better,
which players being there?
the 3 players at the top of the game.
Has she beaten any of them?
No, I of course, no, that's a fair point. But and she might not, and she might lose 7-5 to Iga in the third. But I would still say that's better than what she was doing in 2021. And it
No,
might not be. It
but
might
you're
not be
assuming
enough.
that it's going to be 7-5 in the third.
I'm not. Okay. I saw her play Rebecca recently in Miami, and it was like that 6-4 in the third. And I was thinking, this is much closer than I would have given even the 2021 Maria Sakkari. I think she's playing better. I mean, it's all
But
extremely subjective.
you know, Rybakina went 3 sets in like every match that event, right?
Yeah, okay, but I'm also watching it with my own eyes, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
seeing, and this is the only barometer we have because you know it's impossible to measure these levels. Just like when people have debates over who's the greatest player of all time, but but for me, she's playing. I mean, maybe she would agree with that. I'd love to hear somebody ask her that. If only we were at the Madrid press conferences to ask her. But
No,
but
I mean,
anyway,
I'm not disagreeing with this, by
I
the
know
way.
you're not. Yeah.
I am kind of just saying that if, that's sort of the argument that the standard of the competition is higher and that's why she's performing better. Like, she kind of needs to beat one of these players. Sabalenka included, but probably likely we're talking about Rybakina and Świątek this year, just in terms of the sheer consistency. Again, I wish I saw anything from Sakari Stevens. That is obviously an eye-catching result, given what
Yeah.
Sloane did in Rouen, what she did in the first 2 rounds here. Schadat Maya fourth round. I mean, I don't know if it will tell us all that much, but is that the Świątek quarter or is that the Świątek semi? If you can tell me that.
Sakari and Swiatek are on a collision course in the quarters.
Okay, would be nice to get that then.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Beatrice had Maya as well winning today. I think I did sort of just touch on that too, but I didn't see any of her match with Emma Navarro. But that's a good win for the Brazilian. And so her against Sakari, and then the winner of that, as I say, will play Swiatek or Sorribes Tormo. Many of us might just say that's going to be Iga Swiatek. Goff against Jastrzębska was a bit of a barnstorming, weird first set. Where Goff, I think, has a 5-love lead before Jastrzębska gets the double break back to 5-4. Eventually, Coco Gauff getting over the line. Nick in particular was gushing of praise for Coco Gauff, and actually, I do think that on clay, I think she's probably going to have a pretty solid clay court season, particularly compared to what she did on the hard court, which for me, since Australia, has left a lot to be desired. I overheard Nick say something in commentary today, which was like, oh, she's had I think, second most wins on tour this year. But then I had misheard him because actually it wasn't this year. It was because I was like surprised by that. And then I started to think about the fact that Sabalenka and Rybakina had missed tournaments and occasionally just crazily gone out early.
Definitely Świątek and Rybakina at like 20 something.
Well, yeah. then I misheard him because he actually then said no. He said since Wimbledon. Well, then you're just creating your own kind of. You're just looking for when does she just go crazy? Well, post Wimbledon. I mean, you can create. I would rather look at something like this year, the last 12 months, their career. We could all find a point and draw a line in the sand.
But I mean, you're kind of harsh because, well, for example, I remember you actually sort of like showing us the question you asked to Coco, right? In what was it, Stuttgart?
This year?
Which was kind of about that, yeah. I mean, about the post Wimbledon swing.
Oh yeah, so her post Wimbledon run, but of course I was looking. I was just intrigued as to what.
But that kind of means you kind of divide her 2023 season into two groups.
Definitely, yeah, exactly. But then I don't lump on the beginning of 2024.
Okay. But I guess, yeah, I suppose.
And I was just intrigued.
Like Nick's stat then shows that, like, even with 2024, she still has that. But yeah, it's like even so, you kind of you kind of mislead people then into thinking that the whole group that we're talking about post Wimbledon until here is like kind of the same, and it's not. But
she had a good win. I'd say it's a good win though today, and I actually have a feeling about her on the clay, and I think she'll do because this is her second best surface probably.
But is it Madrid? Like, is Madrid where it's her second best surface?
Maybe not specifically Madrid, as often can be the case with this outlier. But yeah, I think she'll do fine. I mean, let me just have a quick look at her draw. Madison Keys, I think she'll win that. And then she'll play Ostapenko or Jabeur, and those two have been in very sketchy form of late. And Coco
is
Gauff,
it like does form matter? I mean, if you play Madison Keys or Jelena Ostapenko, does form even matter at all?
And then, well, maybe not. But who's then coming? Then she'll be in the semis, will she?
Yeah,
the semis after that, or the? I'm just trying to.
Yeah.
Oh, because they're one day ahead, aren't they? Yeah,
they are.
So then it'll be the semis against Iga or Maria Sakkari. Sakkari beat Gauff, I think, recently in Indian Wells.
I'll make a strong prediction and say Coco doesn't make it to the semis.
Okay. I think she probably does, but there's no guarantees.
I mean, she's facing Ostapenko potentially back to back. I have
no faith.
That's very tough.
I have no faith in any of those three players, though, really. Keys, Ostapenko, or Jabeur.
I don't have faith in Jabeur, but I do have faith in Keys and Ostapenko.
Okay. Well, Jabeur and Ostapenko are there
Given
today.
the courts, just given the conditions in Madrid, just that, literally just that.
Ostapenko and Jabeur will be playing each other in the next round because Ostapenko beat woman of the moment Carla, and Jabeur overcame Fernandez. I switched over from Jabeur Fernandez to watch Nadal de Minaur, and I switched over midway through the second set. I think Layla was up a break, but I had very little faith in her holding on to that break advantage. She had a break advantage in the first set. Jabeur as well was struggling physically. I think she had the trainer out at the end of the first set, despite winning it. And yeah, it was as close, I guess, as the scoreline suggests, albeit that I didn't see that third set. Maybe Layla will be obviously kicking herself, having got herself back into the match. But Jabeur will now play Ostapenko. I think that could be a very fascinating match. I'm just wondering what their head-to-head is like because, I mean, obviously very different players, but it's probably the popcorn encounter of the next round.
Yeah, Golf Keys is something that I probably want to watch the most out of these four, I suppose, because we're in
2-2,
the
Ostapenko.
yeah, we're in the top half, as you said a day earlier. So I guess we have 4 matches in the round of 16, right? Yeah, by now. So yeah, out of these four, Golf Keys is the one I want to watch. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so anyway, that's Ostapenko Jabeur, who will be playing each other in a couple of days from now. And I think that's all the results from the women's side dealt with. Yes, of course, because I wondered why it was much quicker, but of course, as I say, just before, they
Half the
are
matches,
around ahead. Okay, so that brings us to tomorrow's play. I know Alcaraz is against Wild tomorrow in arguably the match of the day on the men's side. Let's have a quick look at the schedule for tomorrow. Sharif could be making the second week, as Basel was quite keen to see happen. Well, if she's to do so, she's going to have to beat probably the form player in the world right now, Elena Rybakina, which I've tipped Rybakina to win the title. So we've got Vondrousova against Andreeva, Garcia against Paolini as well, among other matches there. Which of the women's matches tomorrow for you is of most interest, would you say?
It's not that good a slate, from what I can
Vondrousova,
see.
Andreeva?
Probably, but I do believe strongly in Andreeva there, so that's
Do you? You
kind
think
of
she'll win?
yeah, that kind of hampers my excitement. I guess maybe Garcia Paolini is the best one. I mean, we have 2 seed versus seed matches. Pavlyuchenkova, Kasatkina, and Garcia Paolini. I feel like, well, Garcia Paolini in the long run might not be the most important for the rest of the event. But yeah, it's a bit of a problem that Sabalenka and Rybakina have, well, seemingly slightly easier opposition. So yeah, it's not the best slate, to be honest. I kind of feel like the fourth round will be a stronger moment for the women's event rather than here, right?
Not so sure about Andreeva against Vondrousova. I think Vondrousova is just easing herself back into a bit of form. Andreeva, I saw her match against Noskova. Very impressive, I would suggest, particularly setting a breakdown, but the way she came back from that to win 5 games in a row and turn that match around. I'm not saying that I'm not putting my house on Vondrousova to win, but I don't know. Maybe I am just leaning towards the Wimbledon winner to win that match. Sabalenka, by the way, there's nothing about her at the moment that fills me with any confidence. And I know it's Montgomery.
I think she was very good in the first round, actually. I know it might not sound like it. I mean,
You
3
mean against
sets against
Lynette?
Magda. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it might not sound like it, 3 sets against Magdalinette, but that to me was a very high quality encounter on both ends. It was kind of like Magdalinette brought her Australian Open form and play style,
Okay.
Australian Open 2023, to that match. And of course, when they played at the Australian Open 2023, it was like relatively close to. I mean, Sabalenka was a monster that entire event, but at least the first set was really tight.
Okay, so that is on the women's side tomorrow, and on the men's side, as I remember, we have Wild against Alcaraz, which we'll have on the show. James and I think Nick as well will be bringing us that particular encounter. Greek Sport Runa kicks off things on the Arancha Sanchez Vicario Stadium. The first match on Manila Santana is at 12:30 local time between Rublev and David Fokina. Humbert and Struff are in action. Be interesting to see if Struff can keep going, bearing in mind, of course, he's last year's finalist, but that's an intriguing affair. Hurkacz, Altmaier, Baez, Fritz, Paul Sorundolo, and Shapovalov Zverev. For me, it's Wilt Alcaraz.
It's a big one. It's a big one. We've seen the Brazilian support that players are experiencing.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
less of
Well, it
less
won't
of a
be,
factor exactly for Carlos because,
and on Manila
well,
Santana as well.
yeah, he's gonna have the whole stadium rooting for him anyway. But yeah, I mean, I am excited for this. It's one of these where you just cannot really write Thiago off. Obviously, he's done it against Medvedev at the French in the best of five format. Maybe a lesser clay player than Carlos, but still. I am very excited about Shapoval's Zverev as well.
Okay.
Just to see if Shapo can threaten. Obviously, he's beaten two clay specialists already. Gonna be tough against the Zverev perfect record in Madrid, near perfect record, 22-4, I think by now. The one time they played on clay, it was actually in Madrid, and it was 6-4, 6-1 for Zverev 6 years ago. But that's a good match to me, and I guess Greek Sport Luna maybe. That's well, currently entering a Holger Luna match. We have zero idea regarding like how he's gonna play, so that's actually pretty big every time. And I don't know. I guess Humbert Struff is a pretty compelling narrative to me. Given that Struff, we have, of course, that final from last year, the first ever lucky loser to make a final at an ATP 1000. And well, now we sort of can look at that, the Munich title, and think, is it actually possible that he just does it twice in a row? And yeah, maybe. I mean, he was really good against Munar.
I'm going to make some predictions here, and they're really difficult. I think that's what I'm looking at. Most of these, I'm not saying I'm gripped by them all, but I am intrigued possibly by most of them in terms of the fact that I'm not quite sure where they're going to go. So, for example, I was looking at Humbert Struff, and I was just thinking, and then no, finally I'm going Humbert. I'm going to go for Runa over Greek Sport, but I don't know what Runa's going to turn up any day of the week. Rublev did Shakina. Rublev has probably been in his worst form that I can remember in recent years, but I'm actually going to tip the Russian to beat David Fokina. I'll go Hurkacz Altmaier, but it's probably, of all these 8 matches I'm looking at, it's probably the lowest sort of level amongst them. Maybe you could look at Tommy Paul Sorundolo as well, but anyway, whatever. I'll go Hurkacz in that one. I'll go Baez over Fritz, and I'll go with Alcaraz over Wilt, but it could be. The thing is with Wilt, it could, if he brings an A game and he performs at that A game, we could be looking at a tight 3-setter. But I also don't trust him to do that for 3 sets and 3 hours potentially. I'll go with Sorundolo over Tommy Paul, and I'll go Zverev over Shapovalov.
That's all I can say.
The last 2 I was quite a bit more confident about, let's say. I mean, even Alcaraz, I will tip to beat Shapovalov. Zverev will beat Shapovalov, that one. Maybe that's the one I'm most convinced about of all the ones I just said.
Sure. Daniel Collins still in the event. You've already given one very confident prediction. We'll
She's
see.
not in action tomorrow, is she?
She is. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe let me have a look who's she playing tomorrow.
Christian.
She'll probably win that one. I like Daniel Collins, but I've just predicted her not to win the tournament. But she'll win that one, yeah. Sabalenka will beat Montgomery. I'll go for Garcia over Paolini. I'll go Vondrousov over Andreeva. I'll go Pavlyuchenkova over Kazatkina. I'll go Putin-Sava over Dolhide. I'll go Rybakina. And I have absolutely no idea about Kruger and did you mention Bailik earlier, by the way? What was it you were talking about?
No, I didn't.
I thought you did. There was something we were saying, and it was like, and you mentioned Balek, but I forget what the context was.
Today?
Anyway,
Today?
yeah, I thought so. I thought the beginning of the show, or
No.
maybe even pre-match. You mentioned.
Today I definitely didn't mention her. There was this one stream with Nick where he was constantly mispronouncing her name and
Hmm,
saying Bilek,
that,
and
what was he saying?
then I Bilek, which
Balek. And is it Balek? Oh, I'm just guessing, by the way.
I mean, I'm not an expert on Czech pronunciation, but why would you have an A there? Like, no.
It's a
I do know.
V.
I do know
Balek.
enough. It's probably
That
just Balek. I mean,
Anyway,
I
that
think we
the
can
reason
safely assume
it's
it's just
exactly that.
Balek.
It's because Nick mentioned her earlier, and he mentioned you berating him for the pronunciation. His excuse, which I think is a pretty good one, it shows that he does some homework. Is that he had checked the WTA website, and they didn't have a pronunciation for her.
But yeah, they don't have a pronunciation exactly because he said I will have to recheck when I said by the recheck, by the way. But yeah, he said that he's gonna have to recheck, and well, apparently not recheck since they don't have it. But yeah, basically he went the English way about it. Yeah, isn't Paolini a friend of the channel? I mean, if we have friends of the channel, then Jasmine Paolini is like on tier 1,
She is
of
tier
friends of
one,
the
yeah.
channel. So
But I
with
guess
Liam
Swan
Brody, with Liam Brody.
yeah, Swan is mentioning this because I'm tipping her to lose to Garcia. But
What can you do? Garcia is like a semi-friend of the channel. I mean, she's appeared on, right? But
yeah,
like you
but
have a tough relationship with her, let's say.
yeah.
When you described it to me, it seemed awkward. But when I then watched it or heard it, whatever it was, I don't
Not
remember
so
if it
bad.
was an audio recording or video recording.
Video, yeah.
But it actually didn't seem that horrible. Yeah.
No, it wasn't too bad. Anyway, isn't Paulina a friend of the channel? She is, and there are many, many more. Okay, well, that brings us to a close. Unless you've got any sort of predictions, and Claire as well as congratulations on the 8K. What did you think about my predictions, particularly on the men's side, anyway? Because you sort of went very quiet as I was racing through those predictions.
I mean, so many of these, I just find it a little like naive to to even go like
To even
that.
make a
Like,
prediction?
yeah, so many of these, like Rublev, Davidovich, Fokina. You can say that one of these will win, and I think Rublev is a slight favorite. But like, I wouldn't even want to take credit if he does win it because it's literally like within that form of the day, whatever. No real matchup advantage for either player. Bias over Fritz is maybe one that's a little surprising to me.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't know. I just think that, okay, I think Fritz in Madrid probably is not a bad fit compared to the rest of the clay court season. I just think that when Byers gets a couple of wins under his belt on this surface, I think against most players in the world, because his movement is just incredible.
so that was the one that I was kind of like, really?
Yeah, I think
And
I am
Paul
sticking my neck
Cerundolo?
out on that
What
one a
did you
bit.
say on Paul
I went
Cerundolo?
for Saunders over Tommy Paul.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, he might as well blow it. I mean, we saw what he did against Marozsan in the second set. But if you're asking me who's the favorite, they're probably France slightly. Yeah. Humbert Struff, I guess I'm the other way. But again,
It's super.
it's
That
kind
was
of
a
like
tough one.
relying on Struff to like bring that level again. And I don't know if he can. Like, I feel like it would be just unwise to suddenly think of him as like a huge contender to go super deep here again, just because of last year of Madrid. I mean, that's not really what his career tells us. And otherwise, it would be hard to say no to anything else because otherwise, you just went with the big favorites, really. So it's tough to say no to anything here.
Okay. Well, that brings this episode looking back on today's action and also a look forward to tomorrow's action to a close. I will then very quickly download the audio from this episode and upload it as a podcast. So if for whatever crazy reason, you crazy cats out there who are tuning in right now would like to re-listen to us in just audio form because you don't want to look at our faces, you can do so on Apple or on Amazon, or no, I think not Amazon anymore, actually. Spotify, whatever. We're out there in the podcast world, and give us a follow and 5-star rating and all that jazz. But of course, also hit the like button on this episode, etc., etc. We'll definitely have Sabot Wild against Alcaraz on the show tomorrow, but we may have one or two other watch-alongs. I will say this: I'm supposed or probably playing football and tennis tomorrow.
Congratulations.
Well, let's see if it happens. The tennis is definitely happening. Oh, and by the way, the tennis is going to be best of 5.
You're prepping your stamina.
My stamina's fine. There's lots of other issues I have to concern myself with, but my stamina's all right.
You're right. I was actually the one when we played in Portugal. I was actually the one who like had
Blowing.
some physical issues at the end rather than
Yeah.
you. So, well, they weren't maybe necessarily connected to stamina, but well, if we played for 1 more hour, I'd probably be the one in trouble.
Oh yeah, you were having
Yeah, something with my hand. Yeah.
Okay, well, there we go. Job done for the day, and we'll see you all tomorrow. And you know the drill. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.
I am Francisca Jorge, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect. Thanks.